All right, so you're ready to jump into mutual funds. Great. We've got some excerpts from Eric Tyson's Mutual Funds for Dummies audiobook transcript to help us with this deep dive. Should be interesting.
Yeah, and what's cool is that Tyson doesn't just assume you already know everything about investing. He starts with the basics, like what are the two fundamental types of investments?
Okay, so what are we talking about here?
Lending and ownership, those are the biggies.
Lending, I feel like I get that one. Putting money in a savings account, buying bonds, that kind of thing.
Exactly. You're essentially loaning out your money, right, to a bank, company, or even the government. And you expect to get paid back with interest, of course. Tyson compares it to, like, being the bank, which sounds pretty cool.
I like that. Be the bank.
But there is a catch. Your return, it's basically limited to that interest rate. So even if the borrower ends up doing amazingly well, you're still just getting your fixed rate.
So no chance of, hitting the jackpot with lending investments. Okay, so that makes sense why he then dives into ownership investments. What's the deal with those?
He uses this awesome analogy. Imagine owning a piece of a pie. That piece could be part of a company through stocks or even real estate. And your return, well, it depends on how well that asset does. It's all connected.
So the higher the risk, the higher the potential reward.
Yeah.
Gotta love that potential. But Tyson doesn't just stop at stocks and real estate, right? I mean, he goes through a whole bunch of other investment options.
He does. Savings accounts, bonds, real estate, even gets into the riskier stuff like limited partnerships. He even throws in some warnings, especially about those limited partnerships. He practically yells at you to stay away.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. He was like, don't even think about going there. Strong words. So before you even think about choosing an investment, what does he say are the must-knows?
He's all about these three concepts: return, volatility, and diversification. Understanding those is super important, especially diversification. Basically, spreading your investments across different things so you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, the whole don't put all your eggs in one basket thing. Smart move. But he doesn't just mean within one investment like a mutual fund. He's talking about your entire portfolio.
Absolutely. Diversify everything. And that actually brings us to the main event: mutual funds.
And Tyson is a fan. He even calls them the best investment vehicles ever created. That's a bold statement. What makes him so gung-ho about them?
Well, he breaks it down into three main advantages. First, they offer built-in diversification. So instead of picking out individual stocks, you're buying a whole basket of them, managed by professionals.
No, for someone like me who, well, let's face it, doesn't have the time to be analyzing companies all day, mutual funds offer a way to get into the market without having to do all that work myself.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Exactly. No need to become a stock market expert overnight. And that leads us to the second advantage: professional management. Tyson talks about how these fund managers, they spend their days doing deep dives into companies, going through all those financial statements, talking to executives, even competitors. It's like they're financial detectives.
So it's like having a whole team of experts working for you. Pretty sweet, but without, the crazy cost of hiring your own financial advisor.
That's a good point. He even mentions that most people just don't have the time to do that kind of research on their own. And let's be honest, who wants to spend their weekends staring at financial reports?
Not me. I got better things to do.
So we've got diversification and professional management. What's the third big perk?
Lower costs. Mutual funds, because they pool money from so many investors, they can get lower fees, lower trading costs, and spread those administrative costs out too. He's got this whole breakdown of how even small differences in fees can really add up over time.
Yeah, like it's the power of compounding, but in reverse. Got to keep those fees low.
Absolutely. And he's really into those, what are they called, no-load funds? The ones that don't have those upfront sales commissions.
Yeah, those sound good. But before I get too excited, I know there's got to be a downside, right? What are some of the risks? He's definitely upfront about the fact that mutual funds, especially the ones focused on stocks, can be a bit volatile, especially in the short term. He warns about panicking and selling when the market dips. You could miss out on those long-term gains.
Yeah. The whole time in the market beats timing the market thing, right? Easier said than done when your account balance is taking a nosedive.
He's big on having a solid plan, sticking to it even when things get a little shaky. It's all about aligning your investments with your risk tolerance and your goals.
Don't let your emotions take over. Solid advice. But there was another risk he mentioned, right? Something about derivatives.
Yeah, he points out that some funds might invest in those complex things, derivatives, and those can be risky if they're not used properly. He suggests sticking to funds that use them for hedging, not speculating.
So basically, read that prospectus carefully. Make sure you understand what the fund is actually investing in.
Do your research. And he really stresses understanding a fund's investment approach before you jump in. It's not just about chasing the highest returns, it's about finding something that matches your goals and how much risk you're comfortable with.
Okay, so choose wisely, which leads us to the next big question. How do you actually pick the right mutual fund for you? There are so many out there.
And thankfully, Tyson gives us some pointers on that. He breaks down the world of mutual funds into these categories based on risk and potential return. He starts with the most conservative option, money market funds. He even calls them the parking lot of investments.
So money market funds are like a temporary spot
Right.
for things like emergency funds.
Got it.
What about if I want something with a bit more, growth potential?
Well, then we start talking about bond funds and stock funds.
Hmm?
Bond funds and stock funds. Those are where things get interesting.
Okay, so bond funds first. Let's unpack those. What are we even talking about here?
So before he even jumps into bond funds, Tyson takes us through bond basics. He really breaks it down. Describes bonds as kind of like IOUs, issued by companies or governments.
Okay, so if you buy a bond, you're basically lending money and expecting to get paid back with interest. Kind of like a loan, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah, exactly. But bond funds are a little different. Instead of buying just one bond, a bond fund takes money from a whole bunch of investors and uses it to buy a bunch of different bonds. Diversification in action.
So you're spreading your risk around.
Yeah.
And potentially getting a better return than you would with just a single bond.
That's the idea. But, there are things that can impact the value of a bond fund. Interest rates, for example.
Oh, right, interest rates. Those always seem to be changing.
Tyson explains that when interest rates go up, bond prices tend to go down and vice versa. He's got this really clear example to help explain it. Imagine you buy a bond. Let's say it's paying a 3% interest rate.
Okay, 3%. Got it.
Then imagine interest rates go up and new bonds are being issued at, say, 4%. Well, suddenly your 3% bond doesn't look so hot anymore.
Because investors could just go buy a new bond with a higher interest rate.
Yep.
So the value of my original bond would probably go down.
Yep, pretty much. And that same idea applies to bond funds. They can go up and down in value based on those interest rate changes. So it's something to be aware of, especially if you need that money in the short term.
Right. Short term versus long term. It's all about time in the market.
Exactly. Long-term thinking is key. He also mentions that bond funds come in, different varieties.
Oh, different flavors of bond funds.
I could say that. He talks about bonds based on their maturity dates and their credit quality, even who issued them. Are they government bonds? Corporate bonds?
So like with mutual funds, you've got to pick a bond fund that, matches your risk tolerance and what you're trying to achieve with your investments.
Exactly. And he even mentioned some specialized bond funds, like ones that invest in mortgage-backed securities. Remember those GNMA bonds we talked about before?
Oh, yeah. Those were a bit of a head-scratcher for me. Can we revisit those for a sec?
Sure. So GNMA bonds are issued by the U.S. government, and they're backed by a whole bunch of mortgages. Because they're backed by the government, they're considered pretty safe, but they can be kind of complicated compared to some other types of bonds.
So maybe not the best for someone who's totally new to bonds?
Probably not. He suggests starting with something simpler, like treasury bond funds or corporate bond funds, at least until you get a better handle on things.
Okay, start slow, work your way up. Makes sense. But now, let's talk stock funds. These are the ones with the potential for some serious growth, right?
He definitely positions them as the growth engine of a portfolio, the most potential for those long-term gains, but also the most risk.
Higher risk, higher reward. So what should people be thinking about when choosing a stock fund?
First and foremost, he's all about knowing your risk tolerance. Can you handle those market swings? Or do you need a smoother ride? Gotta be honest with yourself.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of potential returns and forget about how much risk you're actually comfortable with.
Exactly. And your risk tolerance can even change over time, You might be fine with more risk when you're younger because you have more time to recover from any losses.
But as you get closer to retirement, you might want to dial it back a bit. Protect that nest egg. Makes sense.
Right. And when it comes to actually picking a stock fund, he breaks things down by market capitalization. Remember that whole concept?
Market cap. Yeah, that's basically the total value of a company's stock. So like a mega cap company would be a huge one like Apple or Amazon, right?
Exactly. And he explains how a lot of stock funds focus on specific parts of the market, like large cap stocks, mid cap stocks, small cap stocks.
So you could have a large cap stock fund that invests in those big companies, or a small-cap stock fund that focuses on smaller companies that might be growing faster.
And he points out that investing in different market cap segments adds another layer of diversification to your portfolio.
Diversification within diversification.
Got it.
Got it. But it's not all about company size, right? He also talks about different investment styles.
Oh, yeah, he breaks down those styles like growth investing, value investing, and blend investing.
Okay, break those down for me. What are we talking about with each of those?
So growth investors, they usually look for companies they think are going to grow really fast, even if those companies seem a bit pricey right now.
Right.
Value investors, on the other hand, they look for companies that they think are undervalued, like hidden gems the market is overlooking.
So growth investors are betting on the future, and value investors are looking for bargains.
Kinda, yeah. And then blend investors, they kind of do a little bit of both. They want a mix of growth and value. Tyson suggests figuring out which style fits your own investing philosophy.
It's like figuring out your investing personality. Are you a growth person, a value person, or somewhere in between?
He says there's no one right answer. It all depends on your goals, your risk tolerance, and how much time you want to spend researching funds.
Research, right? This is all a lot of information. How do you even begin to evaluate all these different stock funds?
Well, he's got some practical tips on that. First, he says don't just focus on past performance. Go deeper. Check out the fund's prospectus. It'll tell you about their investment strategy and what they actually hold.
So don't just chase the hot stock of the moment. Take the time to understand what the fund is all about.
He also talks about the importance of knowing the expense ratio, basically the annual cost of running the fund. Lower is better, of course.
Right. You want to keep those costs down so more of your money can grow. It's like finding the most cost-effective landlord.
Great analogy. He even lists some websites where you can find all this info. You can compare funds, screen for specific things like expense ratios or investment styles.
Oh, wow. That's super helpful. Makes it a little less daunting.
And he recommends checking out fund ratings from places like Morningstar. They're a reputable source for independent analysis.
So you've got those experts weighing in as well. But he does remind us, doesn't he, that past performance doesn't guarantee future results.
Oh, he's very clear about that. It's just one piece of the puzzle. You have to look at the big picture.
The investment approach, the manager's track record, it's all connected.
And he's a big advocate for the long-term perspective. Don't get scared by short-term dips. Stay focused on the bigger goal.
Patience and discipline. Easier said than done sometimes.
Right. And he even talks about this strategy called dollar cost averaging, where you invest a set amount of money at regular intervals, no matter what the market is doing.
So instead of trying to time the market perfectly, you're just consistently investing over time. Interesting.
Yeah, it helps average out your purchase price over time. Could potentially reduce your risk, too.
Okay, all of this is starting to make sense, but I gotta be honest, I'm still feeling a little overwhelmed by all the options. How do you actually put this all together into a portfolio that makes sense?
Well, thankfully, that's exactly what Tyson tackles next. Asset allocation. It's all about figuring out how to divide up your investments, stocks, bonds, cash, creating a portfolio that aligns with your risk tolerance and everything.
Okay, that's what I need. A roadmap, some guidance on how to actually build a portfolio that works for me.
And that's exactly what he aims to provide. He offers practical advice on how to personalize your approach. Ready to dig into that?
Absolutely. Let's do it. All right, asset allocation. It sounds kind of fancy, but is it really just about figuring out how much money to put in different types of investments?
Pretty much. Tyson describes it as like the art and science of dividing your investment pie. How much goes to stocks, bonds, cash? It's a big deal because how you allocate those assets really affects your portfolio's risk level and how much you could potentially earn.
So it's like choosing the ingredients for your, financial recipe. But with all these different investment options out there, how do you know what the right mix is?
He's big on the idea that there's no one right answer for everyone. Your ideal asset allocation, it all depends on your own situation, your age, your risk tolerance, how long you plan to invest, and what you're ultimately trying to achieve with your money.
Yeah, makes sense. A 25-year-old who's just starting out is probably going to have a different investment strategy than someone who's getting ready to retire.
He talks about how younger investors, since they have more time to recover if things go wrong, they can usually handle more risk. So they might put a bigger chunk of their money into things like stocks, which have the potential for higher growth.
Ride those market waves while you can. But as you get closer to retirement, you probably want to shift gears a bit, right?
He suggests gradually becoming more conservative as you get closer to retirement. Maybe increase your bond holdings, It's all about protecting what you've saved and making sure you have a steady stream of income once you retire.
So it's like adjusting the recipe as you get closer to serving time. You want to make sure the flavors are balanced and, satisfying. But he doesn't just give, like, vague advice, right? Does he actually give specific guidance on how to create an asset allocation strategy?
He does. He has some sample asset allocation models in the book, to show how this works in real life. But he's clear that those are just starting points, not hard and fast rules.
So like those model homes you see, they give you an idea, but you can customize them to fit your own style.
Perfect analogy. He encourages readers to use those models as a framework and then adjust them based on their own specific circumstances.
This is where working with a financial advisor could come in handy, right? To get advice that's tailored to your situation.
He does touch on that. While he gives you a ton of info to make your own decisions, he acknowledges that professional guidance can be valuable, especially if you're dealing with, complex financial stuff or just feeling overwhelmed.
Like having an interior designer help you decorate that model home. They can make sure it really reflects your style. But Tyson also emphasizes that your asset allocation shouldn't just stay the same forever, right?
No, he's big on reviewing and adjusting things as your life changes.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. You've got to stay involved. It's like having a garden. You need to prune, weed, and make sure it's healthy.
And just like with a garden, patience is super important. He reminds us that investing is a long game. You gotta stick with your plan and not panic when the market dips.
Yeah, discipline and all that. Don't let your emotions get in the way.
And of course, diversification. Not just within each asset class, but across your whole portfolio. Spreading your investments across different types of assets, industries, even different parts of the world can help reduce your overall risk.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Classic advice.
He wraps up by encouraging readers to be active participants in their financial well-being. Stay informed, educate yourself, and ask questions.
It's about taking control of your money and your future.
He leaves us with this great thought. The most important investment you can make is in your own financial education.
So we've covered a ton of ground today, from the basics of investing all the way to asset allocation. Hopefully you're feeling a bit more confident about making those money decisions.
Tyson does a great job breaking it all down. He's all about empowering people to take charge of their finances.
He definitely made it all seem a lot less intimidating. I feel more prepared to build a portfolio that actually works for me. And more importantly, he inspired me to keep learning about this stuff.
That's what it's all about. And remember, even small steps can make a big difference in the long run. Keep learning, stay informed, and keep moving towards your financial goals.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of mutual funds. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep building that brighter financial future.
Happy investing!